There's only one clear path to start growing the Jamaican economy by 10% each year, every year, for the next 10, 20, or even 30 years. That is the tourism industry. First, let's have a look at the four horsemen of Jamaica's slow economical growth dilemma. In alphabetical order, the four horsemen for the last 9 years were 1. Andrew Holness, Prime Minister; 2. Auburn Hill, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce; 3. Edmund Bartlett, Minister of Tourism; and 4. Nigel Clark, Minister of Finance. In this episode, we will be looking at number 1 from the list above, Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister of Jamaica. This video was first created in 2023, but has been adapted for June 2025. First, I would like to take my hats off to Andrew Holness for being the great communicator that he is. The Prime Minister comes across to me as someone who is not afraid, to tackle large infrastructure projects in Jamaica. However, I think his focus is mainly on the eastern section of the country, especially the southeast, and on the second city, Montego Bay, and other sections of the northwest. He does not seem to be paying much attention to the southwestern quarter of the island. Also, I think the Prime Minister and his cabinet has done fairly well with managing the country's economy and resources. However, Jamaica does not just need to manage what it already has. Jamaica needs rapid long-term growth in the economy. Jamaica is one of the poorest countries in the Caribbean, and we are at the point where it would take Jamaica 30 years, growing by 10% per year, to equal the GDP per capita of the Bahamas, Barbados, or Trinidad and Tobago. Jamaica's long-term growth since independence has been by 1 to 2% per year, and apart from the pandemic, the current Andrew Holness administration has been growing the economy by 1% per year. Also, the projection over the next 2 years is that the Jamaican economy will be growing by 1 to 2% per year. I wish the Prime Minister would focus more on the tourism industry rather than dreaming up any fancy new ideas on how to start growing the Jamaican economy rapidly. Everyone in Jamaica understands how the tourism industry works, hence why not expand on the thing that Jamaica has invented, such as the luxury large all-inclusive hotels. This could easily grow the Jamaican economy by 10% per annum and build out the country's infrastructure in the process, all paid for with direct foreign investments. I just can't see why the Prime Minister does not allow the DFI money for mass economical expansion in the hotel industry in Jamaica. A few months ago, the Minister of Tourism offered 2 all-inclusive hotel franchises, and they were quickly snapped up by one company. This really tells us that many more foreign investors would love to invest in the hotel industry in Jamaica if they're given the chance to do so. If the foreigners are building the hotels, then Jamaica just needs to build the roads that the visitors are going to drive on. These roads that the government was going to build anyways will now be built with the money raised from the newly built hotels in the rural parishes of Jamaica. So if the money to build the roads is coming from the tourists, then the money to build the roads would be as a result of the FDIs. Hence, it would be the DFI that are building both the hotels and the roads, while providing hundreds of thousands of jobs in rural Jamaica. Soon, an airport will be required in St. Elizabeth to serve the southwestern parishes of Jamaica. Again, this money to build the airport will come as a result of the DFI investments, money that the hotels are generating for Jamaica. Jamaica currently raises about $2.5 billion from the tourism industry, which is mainly on the north coast, or more specifically in the northwest, while the southwest could easily raise at least $1 billion per year if the government starts offering franchises to attract direct foreign investment in the southwest of Jamaica. The $1 billion per year raised could first be used to build the roads, then be used to build the airport in St. Elizabeth to serve the southwestern parishes of Jamaica. The arguments that I have heard against a massive increase of the tourism industry are honestly ridiculous, in my opinion. I've heard both government ministers and some skeptics saying that the hotel industry is vulnerable. Some use the pandemic as an example of how vulnerable the tourism industry is, and others talk about the disruption a hurricane could cause, and so on. Jamaicans should be thinking that once we have our highways throughout the country, paid for by the hotel industry, and also our hospitals, schools and health centres, all paid for because of the foreign direct investments and the expansion of the tourism industry, well, who cares about any vulnerability after that? It should be the hoteliers who have that care. It is their money that they are building the hotels with. In any case, it is the tourism industry that helped Jamaica to recover as quickly as it did after the pandemic. So, the pandemic has taught Jamaica that the tourism industry can help Jamaica to recover after any disaster more than any other industry could do. Jamaicans don't really need to stress about what might happen to the tourism industry in the future. So even if another pandemic comes along in, say, 20 years and the hotel industry takes a hit, Jamaica will still have those roads, health centres and hospitals in place to help us better handle another crisis. Honestly, it's the hoteliers, the ones spending all that money, who should be worried about another pandemic, or maybe a really bad hurricane. But they're not too concerned because they know they can make back their investment in just 5 to 10 years after opening. And in any case, they're fully insured, so they're covered. So I have to say, I find the arguments against massive tourism expansion to be pretty flimsy and, well, baseless. Within 10 years of the government offering those franchises to build 20 hotel resorts, with 10 hotels on each resort, each having 1,000 rooms, the roads in the parishes where these franchises are given could be upgraded. And even a new airport could be built, maybe 10 years into the project. The Prime Minister mentioned that it usually takes about 5 years from the time of an announcement before any real work actually begins. That means if 20 hotel franchises are announced for the southwest of Jamaica this year, which is 2025, it would be 2030 before any actual work starts on both the hotels and the roads. But as soon as those announcements are made, locals will start capitalizing by building small, family-owned hotels and Airbnb dwellings. The announcements themselves will also kick off a construction boom in those parishes where the big, all-inclusive hotels and new dual carriageway roads are planned. Lastly, the government really should be handing out those franchises on a 49-year lease or a 99-year lease. After 99 years, those hotels should belong to Jamaica. The hoteliers would then need to start paying rent to the Jamaican government once their 99-year leases are up. It costs about $250 million to build one of those massive 1,000-room, all-inclusive hotels. But a hotel of that size can generate up to $50 million per year. So within 5 to 10 years, they'll have made back their investment, and then they have many more decades to make profits before the hotels eventually fall into the hands of the Jamaican government. Whether the lease is 49 or 99 years, the main thing is to use the hotel industry to employ the hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans who have given up on finding full-time work. And then use the income from the hotel industry to build up the country's infrastructure.